So the first question I'm gonna answer is the second question, and it asks to use the video and assigned reading to support my perspective to describe the typical punishment for a first-time drug offense in the U.S. and also how does the punishment compare to that of most other developed countries. From the video was that the U.S. has the highest incarceration by over about 160 per 100,000 people. And also in the book it says that in most other developed countries a first-time drug offense leads to no more than 6 months in jail, and rehabilitation is more common than criminalization. In the U.S., the typical mandatory minimum sentence in federal court for a first-time drug offense is 5 or 10 years. And then it just gets worse as it gets higher. Like at a state level, it says that illegal possession of 100 grams of painkillers can lead to a 25-year mandatory minimum sentence. Also, people from the video, I noticed that people in county jails are held until they can. And the instance in the video, it was that the guy had a $10,000 bail and he could pay 10% down and pay the rest. So he'd have to come up with $1,000. And depending on who you are, it could be a lot of money. Something else from the text that I picked up on was from 1980 and 2000, incarceration rates in the United States increased fivefold, in large part because of drug arrests. As such, drug offenders represent the most substantial source of growth in incarceration in recent decades, rising from 40,000 persons in prison and jail in 1980 to about 450,000 today. That kind of just backs up that the first thing to do would be to send that person to prison. Next question I'm going to answer is number 3. Tells me to explain why police may target low-income neighborhoods where people of color live rather than higher-income white neighborhoods. What are the cumulative effects of this policing practice? So in the text, I think this part from the article gives a good answer. And it says that as law enforcement agents have neither the resources nor the mandate to prosecute every lawbreaker, they must be strategic with their resources and enforcement tactics. Because of stereotypes that drug law violators are black, combined with the relatively weak political power of poor black communities, law enforcement agents have targeted open-air drug markets in poor black communities instead of the places where whites use and sell drugs. We can also see this in the video when the narrator talks about war on drugs. People of color were targeted disproportionately, so much so that 80 to 90% of all drug offenders in prison have been African American. Another thing that we can find that backs police using stereotypes and stuff like that would be in the 1995 survey that showed 95% of people thought of blacks as drug users and dealers, while 5% imagined drug users and dealers to be other races. I think that backs the question up because in the video everyone talks about these stereotypes or biases. Even people like law enforcement agents. Keep in mind would be that the amount of people from each race could be thrown off through this type of policing tactic. Like, for example, all these statistics and everything that they provided are the cumulative effects.